She thought the interview was the dangerous part. Walking into the sleek black tower in downtown Seoul, submitting her portfolio to one of the most powerful entertainment companies in Asia, trying not to stare at the beautiful people in designer suits who moved through the marble lobby like they owned the world. She thought that was the risk. She was wrong. The real danger walked into the conference room 30 minutes late. 6 feet of controlled power in a black suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent, dark eyes that swept the room and landed on her with an intensity that made her breath stop, made something low in her belly clench with heat she had no business feeling. Kang Min-ho, CEO of Eclipse Entertainment, stopped mid-step when he saw her. His expression shifting from bored irritation to something she couldn't name, something that looked like recognition and hunger and possession all at once, something that made her feel like her entire life had just been rewritten without her permission, and she didn't even know the pen had touched the paper yet. Welcome to Story Korea, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. Lisa Monroe tried not to stare. Tried to focus on the presentation her potential supervisor was giving about the international marketing department, about how they needed someone who understood both American and Korean markets, someone who could bridge cultural gaps and bring fresh perspective to their global expansion. But her eyes kept drifting back to him, to the way he sat at the head of the table with one hand loosely curled on the armrest, the other holding a pen he hadn't written with once, to the way his jaw tightened every time the supervisor mentioned another candidate. To the way he was looking at her like she was a problem he was trying to solve, or a prize he'd already decided to claim. The meeting ended. People filed out. Lisa gathered her things, her hands shaking slightly because she could feel his attention on her like a physical weight, could sense him watching her every movement. She turned toward the door and his voice stopped her cold. Deep, accented, wrapping around her name like he'd been saying it his whole life. Miss Monroe. Stay. Not a request. Command. Her supervisor glanced between them, some unspoken communication passing, then nodded and left, closing the door behind him. The silence in the conference room felt suffocating. Lisa turned slowly and found Kang Min-ho standing now, hands in his pockets, studying her with an intensity that made her skin heat. "You're American," he said, though it clearly wasn't a question. "African American, yes. Born in Atlanta. Lived in Seoul for 2 years teaching English." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Your Korean is excellent. Thank you. Your portfolio is impressive. Your references are impeccable. Your interview performance was perfect." He moved closer, each step deliberate. "But that's not why you're still standing here." Lisa's heart hammered against her ribs. "Then why am I?" He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her head spin. "Because the moment you walked into this room, something in my chest tightened. And I don't do feelings, Miss Monroe. I don't do reactions. I've built an empire on control and calculation. But looking at you makes me want to burn all of that down just to see what happens." The confession should have terrified her. Instead, heat flooded through her body, pooling low and insistent. "Mr. Kang, I don't think." "You're hired," he interrupted. "Double the original salary. You start Monday. You'll report directly to me." "That's not appropriate," Lisa managed, even though part of her was already imagining what it would be like to work for this man, to see him every day, to be the focus of that devastating attention. "I don't care about appropriate." His eyes held hers. "I care about what I want. And I want you here in my building where I can see you. Where I can figure out what the hell you've done to me." Later that night, Lisa lay in her small apartment in Itaewon, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over. The way he'd looked at her. The way her body had responded despite every logical reason to run. The way she'd accepted the job even knowing it was dangerous. Even knowing that working for Kang Min-ho meant entering a world of wealth and power and intensity she wasn't prepared for. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She opened the message and her breath caught. "Sleep well, Miss Monroe. Monday will change both our lives." She should have been frightened by the presumption, by the stalker-level knowledge of her personal number. Instead, she felt heat bloom across her skin as she typed back. "How did you get my number?" His response came immediately. "I'm Kang Min-ho. There's nothing about you I can't find out. Nothing about you I won't learn. Starting Monday." The next few days passed in a blur of preparation. Lisa bought new clothes she couldn't afford, rehearsed professional boundaries she knew she wouldn't be able to maintain, and tried to convince herself that she could work for a man who looked at her like he wanted to devour her whole and keep every piece for himself. Monday morning arrived cold and bright. Lisa dressed in her best suit, a deep burgundy that made her brown skin glow, her natural curls styled perfectly, makeup subtle but effective, professional armor. She arrived at Eclipse Entertainment 15 minutes early, and was immediately escorted to the executive floor by a stern-faced assistant who spoke only in clipped Korean. Kang Min-ho's office was on the top floor, all glass walls and modern furniture, and a view of Seoul that made her dizzy. He stood by the window when she entered, back to her, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Korean that sounded angry. He turned when he heard her, and the phone call ended mid-sentence. "You're early," he said. "I'm punctual. You're breathtaking." He said it like it was a fact, not a compliment. "That color makes your skin look like warm honey. Every man in this building is going to want you. I'm going to have to make sure they all know you're completely off limits." Lisa's cheeks burned. "Mr. Kang, that's not. Call me Min-ho when we're alone," he interrupted, moving closer. "And I'm going to be very clear about something, Lisa. Don't share. Don't play games. And I don't pretend I don't want what I want. I want you. I'm going to pursue you. And eventually, you're going to stop fighting what I see happening every time you look at me. You're my boss," she whispered. "I'm aware." He reached out, his fingers brushing a curl away from her face, the touch sending electricity racing across her skin. "Which means you're mine to protect, mine to provide for, mine to watch over. Starting now." The first week was torture. Lisa tried to maintain professional distance, tried to focus on learning the company's international marketing strategies, tried to ignore the way Min-ho watched her constantly. She felt his attention like a physical presence, felt him tracking her movements through the open office floor, felt the weight of his gaze every time she spoke in meetings or laughed with coworkers or simply existed in his space. He found reasons to call her into his office, to discuss projects that could have been handled over email, to ask her opinion on decisions that clearly didn't require her input, to simply look at her while pretending to work. "You're staring," Lisa said one afternoon, not looking up from her tablet. "I'm appreciating," Min-ho corrected from behind his desk. "There's a difference. It's distracting." "Good. You've been distracting me since the moment I saw you. Fair is fair." By the end of the second week, the entire office knew. Not that anything had happened, but the way Kang Min-ho looked at the new American marketing specialist, the way he appeared wherever she was, the way he'd fired someone for making an inappropriate comment about her curves, it was all very clear. Their CEO was obsessed. The catalyst came on a Friday night. The company was hosting a gala for industry partners, black tie exclusive, the kind of event where deals worth millions were made between champagne toasts and carefully orchestrated social interactions. Lisa hadn't planned to attend, it wasn't required for her level, but Min-ho had personally delivered an invitation to her desk that morning. "You'll come," he'd said. Not asked. Stated. "I don't have anything appropriate to wear to something like that. You do now." He'd placed a garment bag on her desk, designer label visible, and walked away before she could protest. The dress was stunning. Emerald green silk that hugged every curve, dipped low in the back, made her feel like someone who belonged in Min-ho's world. She almost didn't wear it, almost stayed home. But something, curiosity or recklessness or the memory of the heat in his eyes, made her go. The gala was held at a luxury hotel in Gangnam, all crystal chandeliers and wealthy guests, and an orchestra playing soft classical music. Lisa felt out of place the moment she entered, despite the designer dress, despite the confidence she tried to project. This wasn't her world. Then Min-ho found her. He materialized at her side like he'd been tracking her location, his hand settling possessively on her lower back, his body angling to shield her from the room. He wore a black tuxedo that made him look like sin and power combined, and when he looked down at her, something in his expression made her breath stop. "You wore the dress," he said quietly. "You bought the dress. I bought you 20 dresses. You only wore one." His thumb traced circles on her lower back through the silk. "But God, Lisa, you're devastating in green. Every man here is going to want you. And I'm going to have to remind them all that you're completely off limits. I'm not yours to claim, she managed, even though her body was already leaning into his touch. Not yet. His voice was dark promise. But you will be. The evening passed in a haze. Minho introduced her to powerful people, CEOs and investors and celebrities. His hand never leaving her back. His attention never wavering from her even when speaking to others. He brought her champagne, made sure she had food, deflected inappropriate questions with cold efficiency, protected her without making it obvious. Lisa felt cherished, claimed, owned in a way that should have bothered her but instead made heat pool low in her belly. Then Kim Ji-hun arrived. Lisa noticed the shift in Minho immediately. His body went rigid against hers, his hand on her back tightening almost painfully, his jaw clenching as he watched a tall, handsome Korean man in an expensive tuxedo approach through the crowd. Minho, the man said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I heard you finally found someone willing to tolerate you. Ji-hun. Minho's voice was ice. I'm surprised they let you in. Didn't realize this event was open to criminals. Former business rival, Ji-hun corrected smoothly, his eyes sliding to Lisa with obvious interest. And you must be the American beauty everyone's talking about. Kim Ji-hun, pleasure to meet you. He extended his hand. Lisa took it automatically, and Minho made a sound low in his throat that sent shivers down her spine. Miss Monroe works for Eclipse Entertainment, Minho said coldly. Which means she's completely off limits to you. Works for you or belongs to you. Ji-hun's smile sharpened. There's a difference, Minho. Or has your obsession blinded you to basic employment law? The tension between them was suffocating. Lisa could feel Minho vibrating with barely controlled violence beside her, could see the calculation in Ji-hun's eyes, could sense she'd become a pawn in whatever history these two men shared. Dance with me, Ji-hun said to Lisa, ignoring Minho entirely. Unless your boss forbids it. It was a test. Challenge. Lisa knew if she refused, it would confirm she belonged to Minho. If she accepted, it would drive him insane with jealousy. She should have refused. Should have stayed safe at Minho's side. But something reckless made her smile. One dance won't hurt. Minho's hand tightened on her back. Lisa. It's fine, she said quietly, meeting his eyes. I can handle one dance. The fury in his expression made her stomach clench with heat and fear combined. But he released her, his hand dropping away slowly. His jaw so tight she could see the muscle jumping. Ji-hun led her onto the dance floor. His hand at her waist, professional distance maintained. You're braver than you look, he said as they moved to the music. Minho doesn't share his toys. I'm not his toy. No, you're his obsession. Which is much more dangerous. Ji-hun's smile was knowing. He's going to destroy anyone who touches you, starting with me. But I wanted to see how far gone he really was. Lisa glanced toward where Minho stood at the edge of the dance floor. His entire body coiled tight. His eyes burning into them with possessive fury. Several people had tried to speak to him. He'd ignored them all, his focus entirely on her. Why do you hate him? Lisa asked. I don't hate him. I envy him. Ji-hun's hand tightened slightly on her waist. He gets everything. Money, power, respect. And now apparently the most beautiful woman in Seoul. Some men have all the luck. The song ended. Ji-hun released her with a bow and a knowing smile. Good luck, Miss Monroe. You're going to need it. Lisa turned and found Minho right there, having crossed the dance floor the moment Ji-hun let her go. His hand captured her wrist, not painfully but firmly, possessively. We're leaving, he said, his voice rough with barely controlled emotion. Now. He didn't wait for her agreement. He simply guided her through the crowd, past curious stares and whispered speculation, out of the ballroom and into the elevator. The moment the doors closed, he pushed her against the wall, his body crowding hers, his hands framing her face. Don't ever do that again, he growled. Don't ever let another man touch you where I can see. Don't ever smile at someone else like you smiled at him. Don't ever make me watch while you dance in another man's arms. Lisa's breath came fast. You don't own me. I want to. The confession was raw, desperate. God, Lisa, I want to own every part of you. Your smiles, your attention, your body, your heart. I want you so completely that the thought of you belonging to anyone else makes me violent. Minho. I'm obsessed with you, he continued, his forehead pressing against hers. I think about you constantly. I watch you when you're not looking. I've memorized the way you move, the sound of your laugh, the way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I've never felt like this. I don't know how to be normal about you. Lisa's hands came up to grip his jacket, her body trembling. This is crazy. I know. His thumb traced her bottom lip. But tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me you don't think about me. Tell me you didn't wear that dress hoping I'd lose my mind over how beautiful you look. She couldn't tell him that. 'Cause it would be a lie. Take me home, she whispered instead. His eyes darkened. Lisa, you're home. Take me to your home. Show me what happens when you stop holding back. The penthouse was exactly what Lisa expected. Modern, expensive, all clean lines and designer furniture and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. But she barely registered the luxury because Minho was on her the moment the door closed. His mouth crashing onto hers with desperate hunger. His hands sliding into her hair, tilting her head back so he could kiss her deeper, harder, like he was trying to devour her whole. Lisa kissed him back with equal desperation, her hands pulling at his jacket, needing him closer, needing to feel his heat against her body. He walked her backward toward the bedroom, never breaking the kiss. His hands roaming her curves like he was trying to memorize every inch. I want you, he groaned against her mouth. I want you so badly I can barely breathe when you're near me. Then take me, Lisa breathed. Stop talking and just. He didn't need more invitation. His hands found the zipper of her dress, sliding it down slowly, reverently. His mouth following the path of newly exposed skin. The emerald silk pooled at her feet and Minho made a sound deep in his throat. His eyes raking over her with hunger that made her burn. You're perfect, he whispered. Everything about you is perfect. When he lifted her onto the bed, when his body covered hers, when he showed her exactly what happened when a man like Kong Minho stopped holding back, Lisa understood why people wrote songs about this feeling. This desperate, consuming, overwhelming connection that made everything else disappear. They moved together like they'd been made for this, for each other. His hands gentle despite the hunger in his eyes. His mouth worshipping every inch of her skin. His voice rough with Korean and English mixed together as he told her everything she meant to him. The pleasure built until Lisa couldn't think, could only feel, could only hold on to him like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. And when she shattered, when he followed her over that edge, Lisa knew with terrifying certainty that nothing would ever be the same. Afterward, lying tangled in his sheets with his arms around her and his breath evening out, Lisa waited for reality to crash back in. For regret or fear or the awkwardness of having just slept with her boss. But it didn't come. Instead she felt safe, cherished, claimed in a way that should have frightened her but instead made her feel complete. Minho's fingers traced lazy patterns on her hip. Stay, he murmured against her hair. Don't leave in the morning. Stay with me. Lisa wanted to. God, she wanted to wake up in his arms, to see what morning looked like in his world. But fear crept in, cold and insistent. Because men like Minho didn't keep women like her. They had their fun, satisfied their obsession, and moved on to the next conquest. I should go, she whispered. His arms tightened. Why? Because this was a mistake. 'Cause you're my boss. Because this can't be real. It feels pretty real to me. He turned her to face him, his eyes serious in the darkness. Lisa, I'm not playing with you. This isn't a game. I told you I was obsessed and I meant it. I want you in my bed, in my life, in every part of my world. I'm not letting you go. You say that now, Lisa said, fear making her voice shake. But in the morning when you've had time to think. In the morning I'm going to make you breakfast and watch you eat it wearing my shirt and probably lose my mind all over again at how beautiful you look in my space. He kissed her forehead. I'm not going anywhere. And neither are you. But Lisa didn't believe him. Couldn't believe him. Because her entire life had been people leaving, people using her and discarding her, people making promises they never intended to keep. So when Minho's breathing deepened into sleep, when his arms relaxed slightly around her, Lisa carefully extracted herself from his embrace. She dressed in the darkness, her heart breaking with every movement, memorizing the sight of him sleeping peacefully, knowing she was walking away from something that could have been extraordinary if she'd been brave enough to believe in it. The note she left on his nightstand was simple. This was beautiful, but we both know it can't be real. I'm sorry. By the time the sun rose, Lisa was back in her apartment, crying into her pillow, convinced she'd made the right choice even though it felt like her heart was being ripped out. Minho woke to an empty bed and cold sheets. For one terrible moment, he thought he'd dreamed the entire night. Then he saw the note, read the words, and fury mixed with panic flooded his system. She'd left. She'd actually left him while he slept, like what they'd shared meant nothing, like she was just another woman passing through his life instead of the woman who'd fundamentally changed him. He was dressed and out the door in 5 minutes, calling his driver. His jaw clenched with determination. Lisa thought she could walk away. She thought last night was just sex, just a mistake. She had no idea how wrong she was. The pounding on her door started at 7 in the morning. Lisa jerked awake, disoriented, her eyes swollen from crying. The pounding continued, insistent, demanding. Lisa. Minho's voice came through the door, rough with emotion. Open the door. Her heart stuttered. Go away. Not happening. Open this door or I'll break it down. You can't just. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Minho stood there with a key in his hand, his hair disheveled, still wearing last night's dress shirt untucked over his pants, his eyes blazing with intensity that stole her breath. How do you have a key to my apartment? Lisa demanded. I own the building, he said flatly, stepping inside and closing the door behind him. I bought it 3 days after you moved in because I needed to know you were safe, that your security was adequate, that no one could hurt you. Lisa stared at him. That's insane. That's obsession. He moved closer. I told you I was obsessed with you. Why do you think that was a lie? Because men like you don't. Men like me don't fall in love with brilliant, beautiful, brave women who make them feel human for the first time in years. He was in front of her now, his hands cupping her face. Men like me don't pursue women who challenge them, who see through their control to the desperate need underneath. Lisa, you're everything I didn't know I was missing. And you think I'd just let you walk away? Tears burned her eyes. You'll get bored. You'll realize I don't fit in your world. I'll worship you every day for the rest of my life if you let me. His thumb wiped away her tears. I'll protect you from everything including your own fear. I'll prove to you that this is real, that I'm not going anywhere, that you're mine and I'm yours and nothing else matters. Minho. Move in with me, he interrupted. Not as my employee, as my woman. Let me take care of you. Let me show you what it's like to be loved by someone who'd burn the world down to keep you safe. Lisa wanted to say yes, wanted to believe him, but fear held her back, cold and insistent. I need time, she whispered. His jaw clenched. How much time? I don't know. I need to think. Minho looked like he wanted to argue, to push, to demand she acknowledge what was between them. But instead he nodded slowly. Okay. You want time, I'll give you time. But Lisa, understand something. I'm not giving up. I'm going to prove to you every single day that this is real. That I'm not going anywhere. That you're safe with me. He kissed her forehead, gentle and possessive, then left before she could respond. The next week was hell. Lisa tried to focus on work, tried to maintain professional distance, tried to ignore the way Minho watched her constantly, the way he found excuses to be near her, the way small gifts appeared on her desk. Coffee exactly how she liked it. Lunch from her favorite restaurant. A first edition book she'd mentioned wanting once in passing. He was courting her. Publicly. Deliberately. Making sure everyone in the company, everyone in their industry, knew that Lisa Monroe belonged to him whether she'd accepted it yet or not. You're making a spectacle, Lisa hissed one afternoon when he appeared at her desk with flowers. I'm making a statement, Minho corrected. You're mine. Everyone needs to know it. I haven't agreed to anything. You will. His smile was confident, possessive. Because you already know the truth. You just need time to admit it. But time was something they didn't have. Because while Minho was pursuing Lisa with single-minded devotion, enemies were watching. Old rivals who saw his obsession as weakness. Business competitors who thought removing his distraction would restore his focus. Dangerous people who didn't understand that making Lisa a target was the worst mistake they could possibly make. The attack came on a Thursday night. Lisa was working late, finishing a presentation for the following morning. Most of the office had emptied out. She was alone on her floor, focused on her computer screen, unaware of the danger until it was too late. The lights went out. Emergency backups didn't activate. And in the sudden darkness, Lisa heard footsteps approaching, multiple sets, purposeful and threatening. Her phone was in her hand before she could think, dialing Minho's number automatically. Instinct overriding logic. He answered on the first ring. Lisa. Someone's here, she whispered, fear making her voice shake. The lights went out and the phone was ripped from her hand. A bag went over her head. Hands grabbed her arms, rough and impersonal. Lisa screamed, fought, kicked, but there were too many of them, too strong, and within seconds she was being carried out of the building through what felt like a service entrance. The last thing she heard before everything went black was Minho's voice screaming her name through the disconnected phone, raw with panic and fury. Minho had been in a meeting with investors when Lisa called. The moment he heard her frightened whisper, heard the phone disconnect, heard only silence, something inside him broke. Not broke, shattered. Exploded into violence and terror and absolute certainty that he would destroy whoever had dared to touch what was his. Get out, he told the investors, his voice deadly calm. Meeting's over. But Mr. Kong, get the fuck out of my building or I'll throw you out myself. They fled. Minho was already on his phone, calling his security team. His hands shaking with rage and fear. Lisa Monroe's been taken. Someone breached the building. I want every camera feed, every access log, every piece of surveillance from the last hour on my desk in 5 minutes. And get me Park Taeyong. Park Taeyong was Minho's head of security, former special forces, the kind of man who could find anyone anywhere, using methods that weren't exactly legal. He appeared in Minho's office before the 5 minutes were up. We have the van on camera leaving through the loading dock, Taeyong said, pulling up footage on the large screen. 3 men, professional gear, knew exactly where the cameras were. Who? Minho's voice was ice. Working on it. But based on the timing and execution, I'd say someone who knows our security protocols. Someone familiar with our building. Understanding crashed through Minho like a physical blow. Ji-hun. Taeyong nodded grimly. He's been making threats, telling people you've gone soft, that your obsession with Miss Monroe makes you vulnerable. This is him proving his point. Then he just made the last mistake of his life. Minho stood. His entire body coiled with deadly intent. Find her. Use every resource we have. I want her location in the next hour, or I start burning down everything Ji-hun owns until he gives her back. Sir, if we move too aggressively, I don't care about discretion. I don't care about consequences. I don't care about anything except getting Lisa back safely. Minho's voice was barely human. She's everything. Do you understand me? Everything. I'll destroy this entire city if that's what it takes. Taeyong had worked for Minho for 5 years. He'd never seen his boss lose control, never seen emotion crack through the icy facade. But looking at him now, seeing the raw terror and fury in his eyes, Taeyong understood. This wasn't about pride or business. This was about love. We'll find her, Taeyong promised. I swear we'll find her. Lisa came to slowly, her head pounding, her wrists bound behind her back. The bag had been removed from her head, but she was in darkness. Some kind of warehouse or basement, concrete floor, musty smell, complete silence except for distant traffic sounds. Fear flooded her system. She tried to move and pain shot through her shoulders. Her wrists were zip-tied too tightly, cutting off circulation. Her ankles were bound as well. She was completely helpless. She's awake, a voice said in Korean. Footsteps approached. Lights flickered on, harsh fluorescence that made Lisa squint. 3 men stood in front of her, all Korean, all wearing black tactical gear, all looking at her with cold calculation. "Miss Monroe," the leader said in accented English. "Sorry for the rough treatment, but you're a very valuable asset." "Let me go," Lisa demanded, hating how her voice shook. "You have no right." "We have every right. You're Kong Min-ho's weakness, his obsession, the thing that makes him human and therefore vulnerable." The man smiled. "Mr. Kim Ji-hun sends his regards." Terror and fury mixed in Lisa's chest. "Ji-hun did this. Mr. Kim wants to remind your employer that in our world, love is a liability. That caring about someone gives your enemies power over you." He crouched in front of her. "Nothing personal, Miss Monroe. You're just a pawn in a much larger game." "Min-ho will kill you," Lisa said with more confidence than she felt. "He'll find me and then he'll destroy all of you." The man's smile faltered slightly. "Perhaps. But by then, the lesson will have been learned." They left her alone after that, bound and frightened in the darkness. Lisa's mind raced, trying to figure out how to escape, how to signal her location, how to survive. But mostly she thought about Min-ho. About the desperation in his voice when she'd called him. About the way he'd looked at her like she was his entire world. About all the things she wished she'd said before this happened. Hours passed. Lisa lost track of time. Her wrists bled from the zip ties. Her body ached from being in one position too long. Fear gave way to exhaustion, then back to fear again when she heard vehicles approaching, multiple engines, the sound of organized arrival. The warehouse door burst open with explosive force. Gunfire erupted, sharp cracks echoing through the space. Lisa screamed, trying to make herself small, terror flooding her system. Then Min-ho's voice cut through the chaos. "Lisa!" Relief crashed through her so intensely she sobbed. "Here. I'm here." He found her in seconds, his hands immediately working at her bonds. His face a mask of fury and fear and desperate relief. "I've got you. You're okay. I've got you." The zip ties snapped. Lisa collapsed forward and he caught her. His arms wrapping around her like steel bands, his entire body shaking. "Are you hurt?" he demanded in Korean, then English, his hands roaming her body, checking for injuries. "Did they touch you? Did they hurt you?" "I'm okay," Lisa managed through tears. "I'm okay now." Around them, Min-ho's security team was efficiently subduing Ji-hun's men. But Min-ho didn't seem to notice or care. His entire focus was on Lisa, on holding her, on convincing himself she was real and safe and alive. "I'm sorry," he whispered against her hair, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. This is my fault. They took you because of me, because I made you a target by not hiding how I feel about you." "Don't," Lisa said fiercely, pulling back to look at him. "Don't apologize for caring about me. Don't apologize for making me feel loved for the first time in my life." His eyes searched hers. "Lisa, I love you," she interrupted. "I've been terrified to say it, terrified to believe it could be real. But sitting in the dark thinking I might never see you again, all I could think was that I'd wasted so much time being afraid when I should have been loving you back." Min-ho made a sound between a laugh and a sob, his forehead pressing against hers. "Say it again. I love you, Kong Min-ho. I love your intensity and your possessiveness and the way you look at me like I'm your entire world. I love." He kissed her before she could finish, desperate and claiming and full of promise. When he pulled back, his eyes held hers with fierce certainty. "Marry me," he said. Not ask. Commanded. "Marry me, move into my home, let me protect you properly. Let me love you the way you deserve for the rest of our lives." Lisa should have asked for time to think. Should have pointed out they'd only known each other for weeks. Should have been practical and reasonable. Instead, she smiled through her tears. Yes. The aftermath was brutal. Ji-hun disappeared, fled the country before Min-ho's people could get to him. But his associates weren't so lucky. Min-ho made examples of them, legal and otherwise, sending a very clear message. Touching Lisa Monroe meant death. The media had a field day when Minho announced their engagement 3 days after the kidnapping. Speculation ran wild about the CEO of Eclipse Entertainment and his American marketing specialist, about whether this was real or strategic, about how long it would last. Minho shut down the speculation with a single press conference. Lisa Monroe is my fiancée, soon to be my wife, and the most important person in my life, he'd said, looking directly into the cameras with cold authority. Anyone who has questions about that, anyone who disrespects her, anyone who even looks at her wrong, will answer to me personally. And I promise you don't want that. Lisa had watched from backstage, her heart full, understanding that this was Minho's way of protecting her. By making their relationship undeniably public, by putting his reputation behind her, he was ensuring no one would dare hurt her again. That night, lying in his bed, their bed now, Lisa traced the line of his jaw. You didn't have to threaten the entire country for me. Yes, I did. His hand covered hers. You're mine. I protect what's mine. I'm not property. No, you're everything. There's a difference. He rolled, pinning her beneath him, his eyes intense. You're my heart, my obsession, my reason for everything. I'd burn the world down to keep you safe. Never doubt that. 6 months later, they married in a small ceremony with only close friends and family. Lisa wore white, Minho wore black, and when he slid the ring onto her finger, she saw tears in his eyes for the first time. Mine, he whispered as he kissed her. Yours, she agreed. A year after that, Lisa stood in their penthouse, her hand on her swollen belly, watching the sunset over Seoul. Minho came up behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist, his hands covering hers over their growing child. How are my girls? He murmured against her neck. Your daughter is kicking like she inherited your temper, Lisa laughed. And I'm perfect. You are perfect. He turned her to face him, his eyes soft with love. Thank you. For what? For being brave enough to love me back. For giving me a family. For making me human. He kissed her softly. For sending that interview application to Eclipse Entertainment and walking into my conference room and completely destroying my carefully controlled life. Lisa smiled. Best decision I ever made. Even if you are obsessed with me. Especially because I'm obsessed with you. Minho's hand splayed possessively over her belly. And I'm going to teach our daughter that she deserves a man who's just as obsessed with her. Who'll protect her, worship her, fight for her against the entire world. You're going to terrify every boy who looks at her. That's the plan. 3 months later, when their daughter was born, Minho held her with shaking hands and tears streaming down his face, looking at Lisa like she'd given him the universe. She's perfect, he whispered. Just like her mother. And watching him with their daughter, seeing the dangerous, powerful man she'd fallen in love with transform into a gentle, devoted father, Lisa knew that everything they'd been through, every moment of fear and danger and desperate love, had been worth it. Because sometimes the most terrifying thing in the world is exactly what you need. Sometimes danger leads to safety. Sometimes obsession becomes devotion. And sometimes a wrong-sent email or a chance encounter changes everything. Lisa had walked into Kong Minho's life by accident. But she'd stayed by choice. And that choice had given them both everything they'd never known they needed. Family. Future. A love that conquered fear. And in Minho's arms, with their daughter sleeping peacefully between them, Lisa finally understood what it meant to be home. But peace never lasted long in Minho's world. 6 months after their daughter Mia was born, trouble arrived in the form of a phone call that made Minho's expression go cold with fury. What do you mean he's back in Seoul? Minho said in Korean, his voice deadly calm. Lisa looked up from where she was feeding Mia, concern flooding her chest. Minho listened for another moment, then ended the call and crossed to her, his jaw tight. Ji-hun's back, he said flatly. He returned to Korea yesterday. My sources say he's been making moves against my business interests, trying to rebuild his reputation by destroying mine. Lisa's blood went cold. He wouldn't try to hurt us again, would he? He's desperate. Desperate men do stupid things. Minho's hand cupped her face. But he won't get near you or Mia. I promise you that. The next few weeks were tense. Minho increased security around their home, around Lisa's daily routine, around everything. She couldn't go to the market without 2 bodyguards shadowing her. Couldn't take Mia to the park without surveillance teams positioned on every corner. "This is insane," Lisa said one night after Mia was asleep. "We can't live like this forever." "We won't have to." Minho's expression was grim. "I'm handling Ji-hun permanently. Legal channels this time. I'm building a case that will put him in prison for the rest of his life." "How long will that take?" "Months. Maybe longer." He pulled her close. "But I need you to be patient. Trust that I'm doing everything possible to protect our family." Lisa wanted to be patient, wanted to trust the process. But fear had taken root in her chest, making every shadow feel threatening, every stranger feel dangerous. She jumped at sudden noises. Had nightmares about the warehouse, about zip ties cutting into her wrists, about never seeing Minho or Mia again. One afternoon, Lisa was at Eclipse Entertainment headquarters for a meeting about the company's expanding American market. She'd kept her position as a consultant, working from home mostly, contributing to strategy when her expertise was needed. Today's meeting had required her physical presence. She finished early and decided to surprise Minho in his office. His secretary waved her through, a knowing smile on her face. Everyone in the company knew about the CEO's obsessive devotion to his wife. But when Lisa opened Minho's office door, she found him in what looked like an intense argument with a woman. Korean, beautiful designer clothes, standing too close to Minho with her hand on his arm. They both turned when Lisa entered. The woman's expression shifted to surprise, then calculation. Minho's expression went from irritated to relieved. "Lisa," he said, immediately crossing to her, his hand settling possessively on her waist. "What are you doing here? Meeting ended early. I thought I'd surprise you." Lisa's eyes flicked to the woman. "Sorry, am I interrupting?" "No," Minho said firmly. "Miss Choi was just leaving." "Actually," the woman Miss Choi said in perfect English, "I was hoping to discuss the merger proposal further. It's quite time sensitive." My answer was no. Still no. It will continue to be no. Minho's voice was ice. "Now please leave." Miss Choi's smile was sharp. "Of course. Lovely to meet you, Mrs. Kong. I've heard so much about you. Minho talks about you constantly." Something in her tone set Lisa's teeth on edge. "All good things, I hope." "Obsessive things," Miss Choi corrected sweetly. "It's quite romantic how he's structured his entire life around you. Some might say it's a weakness, but I find it charming." Minho's hand tightened on Lisa's waist. "That's enough. Leave my office now." After Miss Choi left, Minho turned to Lisa, reading the insecurity in her expression immediately. Don't what? Don't let her get in your head. She's a corporate shark trying to make me uncomfortable by targeting you." He pulled Lisa close. "You're the only woman I see. The only woman I've ever truly seen. Nothing she says or does changes that. She was very beautiful. She's nothing compared to you." Minho kissed her forehead. "And she's delusional if she thinks touching my arm will make me forget that I have the most incredible wife waiting for me at home every night." But Miss Choi's words had burrowed into Lisa's insecurities. That night, after Mia was asleep, Lisa stood in front of their bathroom mirror, examining herself critically. Her body had changed after pregnancy. Her curves were fuller, her stomach softer, stretch marks decorating her skin like silver rivers. She wasn't the same woman Minho had met 2 years ago. Minho appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame, watching her with dark eyes. "What are you thinking about?" he asked quietly. "Nothing, Lisa." He moved behind her, his hands settling on her hips, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "Talk to me. I'm just different now. After pregnancy, after everything." She touched her stomach self-consciously. "You married someone who looked different. I married someone I'm obsessed with." His hands slid around her waist. "And you're even more beautiful now. These curves." His hands traced them possessively. "I worship them. These marks." His fingers ghosted over her stretch marks, They're proof you carried my child. They're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Your mother, my wife, the center of my entire world. How could you possibly think you're anything but perfect? Tears burned Lisa's eyes. Sometimes I forget. Then I'll remind you every day. He turned her to face him. You're mine, Lisa. Every part of you. The parts that changed, the parts that stayed the same, the parts that are still changing. All of it belongs to me. And I've never wanted you more than I do right now. He proved it to her that night, showing her with his hands and mouth and body exactly how much he still desired her, how nothing about her had diminished his obsession, how she was still the only thing in the world that mattered to him. The crisis came 3 weeks later. Lisa was at home with Mia when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Mrs. Kong. Ji-hun's voice came through the line, making her blood freeze. It's been too long. Lisa's hand tightened on the phone. How did you get this number? I have resources. Just like your husband. His voice was cold. I'm calling to give you a choice. You can come meet me alone, or I can ensure that Kong Min-ho loses everything he's built. His company, his reputation, his freedom. I have evidence of his less than legal activities. Evidence that will put him in prison for 20 years. You're lying. Am I? Ask him about the real estate deal in Busan 3 years ago. Ask him about how he acquired the land for his new hotel. Ask him about what happened to the family who refused to sell. Ji-hun's smile was audible. Your husband isn't as clean as he pretends, Mrs. Kong. And I can destroy him. Unless you meet me. Lisa's mind raced. What do you want? Just to talk. 1 hour of your time. You come alone, no security, no telling Min-ho. We have a conversation, and then I disappear from your lives forever. The evidence disappears with me. And if I don't come, then I go to the prosecutor's office tomorrow morning. And you can visit your husband in prison. Alone. With a baby who'll grow up without her father. The line went dead. Lisa stood frozen, her heart hammering, Mia babbling happily in her playpen, completely unaware of the disaster unfolding. She should call Min-ho immediately. Should tell him about the threat, let him handle it his way. But Ji-hun's words kept replaying. Evidence of illegal activities. 20 years in prison. Mia growing up without her father. Lisa couldn't let that happen. She wouldn't. So she did the most dangerous, most foolish, most selfless thing she could do. She called Min-ho's mother to watch Mia, claiming she needed to run an errand. Then she got in her car and drove to the address Ji-hun had texted her. It was a hotel in Gangnam, expensive and public, which gave Lisa some small comfort. He wouldn't try anything violent in such a visible location. To hope. Ji-hun was waiting in the lobby bar, looking relaxed and confident in an expensive suit. He stood when he saw her, gesturing to the seat across from him. Mrs. Kong. Thank you for coming. Let's get this over with. Lisa sat stiffly. You said you wanted to talk. Talk. I want you to leave him. Lisa blinked. What? Leave Kong Min-ho. Divorce him, take your daughter, go back to America. Start over. Ji-hun leaned forward. That's the price for my silence. His empire stays intact, but he loses you. You're insane. I'm strategic. Min-ho's obsession with you makes him vulnerable. Without you, he becomes what he was before. Cold, calculating, unstoppable. But with you, he's weak. And weak men don't survive in our world. I'm not leaving him, Lisa said firmly. Then you're condemning him to prison. To losing his daughter's childhood. To watching his empire crumble from behind bars. Ji-hun's smile was cruel. But I suppose that's your choice to make. You have no evidence. Don't I? He slid an envelope across the table. Take a look. Lisa opened it with shaking hands. Inside were documents, photos, witness statements, all detailing Min-ho's activities 3 years ago when he'd acquired land for a hotel development. Activities that looked very illegal when presented this way. Terror flooded her system. Where did you get these? I've been building this case for 2 years. Waiting for the perfect moment. Ji-hun's expression was triumphant. This is your husband's past coming back to destroy his future. Unless you save him by walking away. Lisa's mind raced. She could take these documents to Minho, let him figure out how to handle it. But what if Ji-hun had already made copies? What if going to the authorities was his backup plan? I need time, she said quietly. You have 24 hours. Then I go public with everything. Ji-hun stood. Choose wisely, Mrs. Kong. Your husband's freedom or your marriage. You can't have both. Lisa sat in the hotel bar long after Ji-hun left, staring at the envelope, her heart breaking. She couldn't leave Minho. But she also couldn't let him go to prison, couldn't let Mia grow up without her father. There had to be another way. She was still sitting there when Minho found her 2 hours later. His expression a mixture of fury and terror. What the hell are you doing here? He demanded, pulling her to her feet. My security team said you left the house without protection. I've been losing my mind trying to find you. Minho. Don't Minho me. What possessed you to? He stopped, seeing the envelope in her hand, seeing the devastation in her expression. What is that? Lisa handed it to him wordlessly. Watched as he opened it, read the contents. His expression going from confused to cold with lethal understanding. Ji-hun, he said flatly. He gave you this. She nodded. He said if I don't leave you, he goes public with it. You go to prison. So you were what? Planning to sacrifice yourself to save me. Minho's voice rose with fury. Were you actually considering leaving me because of this? I can't let you go to prison. And I can't let you walk away from me. He grabbed her shoulders. Lisa, do you understand what you mean to me? You're everything. Prison, losing my company, losing everything else. None of it matters if I lose you. But Mia will have her mother. And I'll figure out the rest. His eyes held hers. But I need you to promise me something right now. Promise me you'll never, ever try to sacrifice yourself for me again. Promise me you'll come to me first with problems instead of trying to handle them alone. Tears streamed down Lisa's face. I was so scared. I know. I'm scared too. He pulled her close. But we handle things together. Always together. That's what marriage means. That night, back home with Mia safely asleep, Minho made phone calls. To his lawyers, to his security team, to people Lisa suspected operated in very gray moral areas. He was handling it, using every resource at his disposal to neutralize the threat. The evidence is fabricated, Minho explained as he worked. The real estate deal was legitimate. Ji-hun doctored documents to make it look illegal. My legal team is already building a counter case for defamation and harassment. And if he still goes public, then we fight it in court and win. But it won't come to that. Minho's expression was cold. Because by tomorrow morning, Ji-hun will have much bigger problems than me. Lisa didn't ask what that meant. Didn't want to know the details of how her husband operated in the darker parts of his world. She just trusted that he would protect their family whatever it took. The next morning, news broke that Kim Ji-hun had been arrested. Multiple charges. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy, attempted extortion. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Minho's team had built a case that exposed everything Ji-hun had done, not just to them, but to dozens of other people over the years. It's over, Minho said as they watched the news coverage. He'll be in prison for the next decade at minimum. He'll never threaten us again. Lisa should have felt relief. Instead, she felt exhausted, drained from the constant fear, the endless threats, the weight of living in Minho's dangerous world. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. Minho turned to her immediately, alarm flashing in his eyes. Do what? This. The constant danger. Enemies. The threats. I love you, but I'm so tired of being scared all the time. Tired of worrying that someone will hurt you or Mia or use me against you. Lisa. I don't want to leave you, she continued quickly. I love you more than anything. But I need things to change. I need to feel safe in our life. Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay. I'll step back from the darker parts of my business. Focus on the legitimate operations. Clean up anything that could come back to haunt us. His hands framed her face. You're right. Our daughter deserves to grow up without fear. You deserve to not spend every day wondering if today's the day something terrible happens. So I'll change. For you. For our family. You'd really do that. I'd do anything for you. I thought you knew that by now. He kissed her softly. You're my everything, Lisa. I'll reshape my entire world to make you feel safe. And he did. Over the next year, Minho systematically restructured his business empire. He cut ties with anything even remotely questionable. Focused on the entertainment company, the real estate developments, the legitimate investments. He became, for all intents and purposes, a regular CEO. Still powerful, still wealthy, but operating entirely above board. The change wasn't easy. Some of his old associates pushed back. Some deals fell through. Some opportunities were lost. But Minho never wavered. Because every night he came home to Lisa and Mia in a peaceful house, without threats or danger or fear, and that was worth more than any amount of power or money. 2 years after Ji-hun's arrest, Lisa discovered she was pregnant again. Minho cried when she told him, his hands immediately going to her still flat stomach, his eyes shining with joy and wonder. Another baby, he whispered. We're having another baby. Are you happy? Happy doesn't even begin to cover it. He kissed her deeply. You've given me everything, Lisa. Family, a purpose, a reason to be better. I love you more than I have words to express. Their son was born 9 months later, healthy and loud and perfect. Minho held him with the same shaking hands he'd held Mia with, the same tears streaming down his face, the same absolute devotion in his eyes. What should we name him? Lisa asked, exhausted but radiant in the hospital bed. Juno, Minho said quietly. After my father. He wasn't perfect, but he taught me the importance of family. And family is everything now. By the time Juno was 6 months old, Lisa had accepted a position as Director of International Operations at Eclipse Entertainment. Not because they needed the money, but because she loved the work, loved contributing, loved being more than just Minho's wife. Minho supported her completely, rearranging his schedule to be home with the kids when she had late meetings, bragging about her successes to anyone who would listen, looking at her with the same obsessive devotion he'd had since the day they met. You know, Lisa said one night, lying in bed with his arms around her, I never imagined my life would look like this. Like what? Happy. Loved beyond measure. She turned to face him. Sometimes I think about that first day, when you walked into the conference room and looked at me like you'd been waiting your whole life for me to appear. Did you know then? Know what? That I was going to be yours forever. Minho's smile was soft, genuine, the smile he only gave her. I knew you were different. I knew seeing you made something in my chest feel like it was cracking open. I knew I'd never want anyone else the way I wanted you. His hand traced her face. But forever. That I was lucky enough to keep you. That you'd love me back despite everything. That was the miracle I never saw coming. I do love you, Lisa whispered. Even when you're being possessive and obsessive and completely unreasonable about anyone else looking at me. Especially when I'm being possessive and obsessive. He kissed her. Because you know it means you're mine. Completely, utterly, irrevocably mine. Yours, she agreed. 5 years after they first met, Minho and Lisa renewed their vows in a ceremony attended by hundreds of people. Business partners, family, friends, celebrities, all gathered to watch the CEO of Eclipse Entertainment and his wife recommit to each other with tears streaming down both their faces. When I met you, Minho said during his vows, I was half alive, going through motions, building an empire with no real purpose. You made me whole. You gave me a reason to be better, to do better, to become the man you deserved. You gave me our children, our family, our home. You gave me everything. When I met you, Lisa said through tears, I was scared and uncertain and convinced I didn't deserve happiness. You showed me what love looked like when it was real and fierce and all-consuming. You protected me, fought for me, chose me over everything else. You made me believe in forever. They kissed as husband and wife again, for the second time, but somehow it felt like the first. Like everything before this moment had been practice for the real thing. That night, at the reception, Minho pulled Lisa onto the dance floor. They moved together like they'd been doing this forever, like their bodies knew each other better than they knew themselves. "What are you thinking about?" Lisa asked, seeing the soft expression on his face. "About how one interview changed my entire life. How you walked into my conference room and destroyed every carefully built wall I had. How you made me feel things I didn't think I was capable of feeling." His hand tightened on her waist. "How you're still the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. How I'm still just as obsessed with you as I was that first day. Still. Always." He kissed her temple. "I told you when this started that I don't do casual. I don't do temporary. When I claim something, it's mine forever. You're mine forever, Lisa. Until the day I die, and probably beyond that. Possessive even in the afterlife," she teased. "Especially in the afterlife. I plan to haunt you if you try to move on." Lisa laughed, the sound pure joy. "Lucky for you, I have no intention of moving on. You're stuck with me. Best news I've heard all day." 10 years after they first met, Lisa stood in their penthouse watching the sunset over Seoul with 2 children playing at her feet. Mia was 8 now, beautiful and confident and showing signs of inheriting both her parents' stubbornness. Juno was 6, sweet and gentle with his mother, but showing hints of his father's protective intensity when it came to his sister. Minho came home earlier than expected, scooping both children into his arms, making them squeal with laughter. He looked older now, hints of silver at his temples, tiny lines around his eyes from years of smiling at his family. But he was still devastating, still powerful, still looking at Lisa like she was his entire world. "How was your day?" Lisa asked as the kids ran off to show him drawings they'd made. "Better now that I'm home." He crossed to her, his hand settling familiarly on her waist, pulling her close. "How about you?" "Good. Productive. I closed the deal with the American distributor. That's my brilliant wife." He kissed her softly. "I'm so proud of you. Are you still obsessed with me?" Lisa asked, the same question she'd been asking for 10 years, always loving his answer. "More than yesterday, less than tomorrow." His hand slid to her stomach, resting there with familiar possessiveness. "Speaking of which, when were you planning to tell me about baby number 3? Lisa's eyes widened. "How did you? I know your body better than you do. I know how you look when you're pregnant. I've been waiting for you to tell me for 3 weeks. His smile was soft. "Were you scared I wouldn't be happy? We didn't plan this one. We didn't plan any of them. But they're all perfect because they're ours." He pulled her close. "Another baby, Lisa. Another piece of our family. How could I be anything but ecstatic?" Tears burned her eyes. "I love you. I love you more. I love you most. I love you beyond measure." He kissed her deeply, ignoring the giggles from their children who'd returned to watch their parents be disgustingly affectionate. "Thank you for giving me this life. For being brave enough to love me back. For making